I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Good morning, Jimmy. How are you today?
Man, USC did to once mighty Kansas last night what I'm about to do to you.
Boy, they be the great touches. Gonzaga better be on the lookout for them.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, how about that? And how about the Pac-12 right now? Very impressive, to say the least. But, guys, unfortunately, we do have to begin with some more news today surrounding Deshaun Watson. And the news just continues because right now 6 more lawsuits have been filed against Deshaun Watson, including one citing an incident with a massage therapist from earlier this month. The Texans quarterback has maintained his innocence, saying on Twitter that he rejected a, quote, baseless 6-figure settlement demand and that this incident is, quote, about clearing my name, and I look forward to doing that. But now some are speculating the league could place Watson on the commissioner's exempt list while they finish their own investigation. So, Shannon, should the league do that now?
Yes, Skip, that's a very useful tool. I don't really know how it works in the offseason, Skip. We saw him do this with Adrian Peterson when he was going through his situation.
Yep.
We saw him do it with Ray Rice until they gather more information.
Yep.
Skip, this is not looking good. And if this was a storm, this would be an F4 tornado. This would be a Category 5 hurricane. Because what we have is we have 13 women already alleging inappropriate contact between them and Deshaun, with another 9 on the horizon.
The lawsuits have been filed.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's 13 plus another 9 that's reportedly that's going to be filed. That's 22 different women. This does not look good. Not only does it not look good for Deshaun Watson, it doesn't look good for the NFL. So basically what they should do is just say, look, we're going to take a step back. We're going to say, Deshaun, not that he was going to have contact with the Houston Texans, because from what I've told, he's broken off all communication.
Okay.
So that's not an issue. But until we get a better understanding of what's going on, we're going to ask you to step back, have no further contact. You're not allowed to be around the team. The only question I have, Skip, what about trades? Does this prohibit a trade?
No, it can't.
Right. So, but Skip, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good for Deshaun. It looks bad for the NFL, and I think they want to get a handle on this to try to find out what's really going on. But I don't know if they're going to be able to deduce what's going on by just these lawsuits being filed. Somebody's going to have to go to court. Somebody's going to have their day in court. And we're going to have witnesses call him. Deshaun's going to probably have to testify in his own defense. And these women are seemingly more than willing to testify. Skip, and you try to do this fair, because the women deserve to have their allegations taken seriously. They deserve to be heard. But in fairness to Deshaun, an allegation is not an admission of guilt. So you try to be as fair as you possibly can. Try to understand both sides. But let me tell you something, people. These women that are coming forward, and Deshaun Watson's life will never, ever be the same. Deshaun Watson will never, ever be looked at the same. The women, if this is true, they feel violated and their lives won't be the same. If this is proven to be untrue, they're going to say, you are the woman that tried to bring Deshaun Watson down because of guilt, because of greed. And so, Skip, people's lives are forever changed. But the NFL, Skip, I believe if they were to step in and say, Deshaun, we're going to put you on the commissioner's exempt list. We want you to step back. But because we want to do our own investigation, we want to try to get to the bottom of this to try to get some clarity. But guess what, Skip? Even if they suspend, because at the bare minimum, I think in Article 46, it says a minimum of 6 games. Mitigating circumstances could drive that up or drive that down.
Yep.
For a chance to have Deshaun Watson for 5 years, if he suspended 10 games, he suspended a year. I get Deshaun Watson for 5 years. A team's going to take that.
I hear you. Before I launch on this, allow me to step back for a moment and say, as I've said from the start, I have not enjoyed talking about this story.
No.
I was the biggest Deshaun Watson fan purely as a quarterback on the football field. But obviously, this is becoming a more and more important story that we need to talk about.
Correct.
Because it's a longer and longer line of women who say that Deshaun sexually violated them.
Or displayed inappropriate behavior.
And this is becoming as stunning a story as I can ever remember in my career.
Yeah.
because as far as I knew, as far as you knew, Deshaun had a spotless reputation.
Right.
But as you said yesterday, so appropriately, maybe there's a Deshaun we knew and another we thought we knew but don't.
Correct.
Off the field.
Right.
And I hark back to the quote from the superstar attorney that Deshaun hired just as the first lawsuit broke, named Rusty Hardin, who's represented so many star athletes, from Roger Clemens to Adrian Peterson, you name it.
Rudy Top Johnson,
Yeah,
Calvin
Michael
Johnson.
Bennett.
Yeah. And big corporations.
Yes, big corporations. In his first quote, this was after only one lawsuit had been filed, "I'm real comfortable with the kind of person that Deshaun Watson is. He has a great reputation here in Houston, and the allegations are really inconsistent with the kind of person he is, or the kind of person we thought he was." So I hark back, the Tiger Woods scandal. It was about rampant cheating on his wife, but obviously the sex was all consensual sex.
Correct.
And then I think of the two Ben Roethlisberger incidents for which he got suspended. I think of the one Kobe incident in question. We all know what happened there. I think of Ezekiel Elliott back in 2017. His girlfriend at Ohio State accused him of domestic violence.
Right.
2 police departments had investigated and found no cause to charge him.
Right.
The NFL investigated, and their lead investigator decided that her testimony was inconsistent, and that
Kia Roberts, I think, is her name.
yeah, and she lost her job over this because she basically
defied the NFL.
She stood up
Yes.
and said, "No, I don't see it."
Right.
Lisa Friel is the head of that arm of the NFL and said, "We must act here." And even though Zeke won the first round of court, he was finally forced to sort of swallow it all and just take it. And the NFL pointed out that he did have one incident in question when he was standing on a rooftop during a St. Patrick's Day parade, and he reached over and pulled down a woman's top.
Right.
It was how bad that looked.
Correct.
And that was the camel that broke the straw that broke the camel's back.
And Skip, that was the thing. The NFL says, well, hey, if you do this in public, what?
Yeah, what?
It's fair to us to make the leap
So
that you
it just looked bad.
It did.
And he took 6 games, a six-game suspension. So to your point, we're up to 13 and counting lawsuits filed.
Correct.
With details in each lawsuit. And I know Deshaun's agent had suggested that maybe there's some fabrication going on here, but after a while, you just sit back and it just overwhelms you. The mountain of this, this building, growing mountain above us all. And Pro Football Talk wrote that it's getting more and more difficult to downplay or explain away the situation, which I agree with. It's become a significant distraction for the league, which I agree with.
Correct.
And at some point, the sheer volume, says Pro Football Talk, of the allegations overpowers the situation. So now there is the exempt list. It's a very broad power that the NFL retains through every collective bargaining negotiation, where you can just say, well, we'll continue to pay you, but all of your activities with your team are suspended.
Correct.
So the shock to me is that Pro Football Talk goes so far as to say the question then would become whether the Texans would simply cut Deshaun Watson to avoid owing him the salary that he wouldn't be allowed to earn. We just went from me saying, okay, listen, forget about all the off field, just on the field. In the history of this game called professional football, the National Football League, there has never been a more valuable property on the market, potentially on the, we think he's on the market.
Correct.
Because Deshaun is so young and so proven that now we've swung all the way in a matter of a week to, would they consider cutting him? And then it would depend, would another team then, they wouldn't even have to give 3 first-round picks or whatever it was.
Skip, how do you go from 3 first-round picks and 2 young